What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 6 of Talking Into Infinity, a Dream Theater podcast. I am your host. With me is my very good friend and co-host, Brian. How's it going, man?
Man, it's going great. I actually did something for this episode I've never done before. I listened to the songs and the album.
Now,
I want to tell you, these Dream Theater kids, I think they got something. There's some toe tappers on there.
going old school with the language,
Yeah.
are you?
You know what? But joking aside, I came up with something here, and I didn't want to tell you ahead of time because I thought it'd be more natural to do it this way. So
Okay.
I came up with a list of other albums that came out in 1994. Maybe you remember.
Oh, okay.
I thought this would be kind of cool to like compare what the music was at the time. So
Well,
I'll just go ahead.
Before you go, I actually graduated high school in 94.
Did you?
So
Okay.
this is going to be pretty interesting because I'll be like, oh God, I forgot about that. So
Okay, so I picked ones that were kind of, I thought would be good for us that we would both enjoy or have meant something. So first one I have is Megadeth, Euthanasia.
good record. Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, I think it's a very underrated Megadeth record.
I completely agree.
Second one I have is Nine Inch Nails, Downward Spiral, which I love, and I'm sure you have one word for it. We probably can't say it on the air.
Yeah, we'll keep this clean. I'm not a fan.
So actually, there's 10 total. Halloween, Master of the Rings.
Wow, is that long ago?
So I'm a huge Halloween fan. This is the first album with Andy Darris, and I was sort of out of the Halloween loop. I got the album after that, The Time of the Oath, which was 2 years later, and then realized, oh, this is actually the second album, since they got rid of Michael Kiske. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Also, what I consider the last decent album with Jeff Tate, Queensryche, Promised Land.
Yes, that is a very underrated record. I love Promised Land.
Yeah, I saw that tour, I believe, at Convocation Center. That was a great show.
Right.
This one is probably not your alley, but I love this album. Corrosion of Conformity, Deliverance.
I never really listened to them that much.
This is the first album with Pepper Keenan on vocals. I like the album after this. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. Maybe one of our listeners will. But yeah, they completely changed from this like basically a hardcore punk band into almost like a Lynyrd Skynyrd metal type thing almost. The next one I have is Machine Head, Burn My Eyes.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, Davidian. I remember like hearing that for the first time. I was like, what in the hell is that? Like,
I love that. I love that album.
With a shotgun. Yep.
A very, I think, overrated album. Motley Crue's self-titled. Some people worship the ground that this album walks on.
Yeah.
I am. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was agreeing with you.
Okay, then we can move on.
Yeah, I just was never a fan of that. So
my favorite Soundgarden album, Super Unknown. I love all the songs on this, the production, there's great vocals, the harmonies are all great. Not a Soundgarden fan.
Moving on.
Pantera, Far Beyond Driven.
Yes, now we're talking.
Maybe my second favorite Pantera album. I'm not sure. Third at least. And finally, I put Alice in Chains, Jar of Flies.
Yes. And pretty much anything Alice in Chains is good. That's even the comeback records have been awesome. Especially like Black Gives Way to Blue. That might be my favorite Alice in Chains record. I love that album.
Yeah, I love the new singer they got in the style that they play. But that Jar of Flies, I mean, arguably maybe one of the greatest like EPs of all time.
Yeah, for sure.
Not that there's that many EPs to compare it to, but great album. Anyway, I just thought that would give us like an idea of the landscape at the time when this album came out.
Was definitely like the beginning of or actually pretty much right in the heart of the grunge thing at that point. Gibson Les Paul says Mickey D's drum performance on Rabbit Don't Come Easy is amazing as well. Man, we are going back. Whew. Man, good call. Yeah, like I say, I graduated high school in 94, so it was my very, very brief grunge phase. I had like a 6 to 8 month period where I was all about Nirvana, and it kind of came and went. And I was, but that was like all the rage within Utero and stuff like that. So, it was weird, and I was still searching for Dream Theater. I told the story about how I got into the band, in the first episode, and I hadn't found Pull Me Under again, so they were not on my radar. So, 94, is, Pantera and certainly Megadeth and everything. And Cody is correct. Cody says Nirvana Unplugged was 94. Well, I know that, Cody. I was just saying, like, In Utero had been this huge smash. So my senior year was 93 to 94. So that was like the big kind of, record that was going on, at least at the school I was at. So,
A lot of people don't realize I actually graduated in 94 too, but the problem is that you can't put a 19 in front of that.
You mean an 18?
Yes. So
nice. So I quick funny story for everybody. So we're trying to like beef up the show a little bit. So I ordered a cameo video from James Labrie to kind of put a cool little intro on the video, and I think I may have mistyped the show title, and so he sends us back this really, really complimentary cameo, which is really cool. And he had said the name of the show wrong, and I felt so stupid when I looked back. I was like, oh, God, now I have to go back to James Labrie and ask him to redo it. So I reordered the cameo, and I didn't mind paying for it twice. It was my mistake. And I'm looking at the background, and I was like, man, I started looking real close. I went, oh, my God, he's recording vocals for the new record. So not only did I have him redo it, but I'm interrupting him working. Like on the new Dream Theater album. I felt like a total ass. I'm like, oh, boy. So,
hey, I know you took the blame, but I think it was John Labrie's fault, personally.
Just keep saying something wrong. So, yeah. All right. So why don't we get into it, man? On this episode, we're gonna continue on our series of album deep dives, and our last episode was the precursor to this one because we did a show about most progressive Dream Theater songs that we think are like the craziest kind of ones to listen to. And I brought up Space Divest, and you really can't stand that song, and it got us into a brief discussion about how you really don't like Awake. And so I thought, well, let's get into that on the next episode. So, I'll ask you a question to start. You obviously listened to the record several times to get into the show. I did the same thing. Did your opinion of the record change at all after repeated listens?
The funny thing about it is when I first put this on, it took about 3 minutes for me to remember what I didn't like about it. And we'll get to that in a second. But
Gibson Les Paul, I'm not ready to hear Brian crap on Awake.
Hey,
well,
look,
get ready for it, man.
Well, funny thing, the original title of this album was actually called Not Currently Engaged in Slumber. But that was a huge, to try to spit that all out would have been really stupid.
Are you going to do this all night long?
I just might. I'm trying to make up for my last performance. I thought I was a little down last performance.
Oh my God, that's funny.
I came up with, I think there's 4 songs. So I'll explain it to you this way. If I go to a concert, I obviously know I'm not going to get every song I want to hear. So in place of songs that I really want to hear, they're not going to play. There's probably 4 on here I'd still be totally okay with. The rest I'd be like, eh.
Okay.
I'll put it that way.
Okay. This is one of my favorite records, and I think it's because, and it's funny that I never put 2 and 2 together on this until, we've talked about, Kevin Moore and his influence on the band, and I've made reference on previous episodes to the fact that, the first 3 albums have what I kind of consider that classic majestic type of sound that they, it kind of changed starting with Falling Into Infinity. And being the dummy that I am, it just hit me a few days ago. I was like, wow, Kevin Moore was on those records. It's his writing influence. It's his writing style that takes it in that direction. So, this is, obviously the final Kevin Moore record of the 3 that he did. And I just think there's something about his writing that gives, these first 3 albums a really different sound from the rest of the catalog. And it's kind of like, in my mind, it defines what Dream Theater is, even though they didn't sound like that all the way afterwards, which is basically the bulk of their career. So it's interesting. But I love the record. I think the production is really cool. I know you disagree with me on that, but I think it's kind of like an open, more natural sounding type of a mix, especially in the drums. To me, it's a pretty dark album, but I think for me, it's probably their most atmospheric. And I think that's what I like about it a lot. So, having said that, why don't we jump in here? So, obviously, track 1, 6 o'clock, 6 a.m., however you want to say it. Well, what do you got on that one?
I love when it starts out the instrumentation. I bagged on some of the keyboard sounds on this before. I'll stick to that for the most part, but the organ sounds where they get into these kind of almost Deep Purple jam type situations, the organs are great. But man, it hit me right away. I'm not a fan of this angry, screaming James LeBrie on this song, and on a lot of the songs on this. It doesn't sound very natural to me. I don't feel like he sings in this style really in the rest of the catalog at all. Yeah, I know he can sing in a heavy kind of a sort of evil tone, but this to me is just borderline abrasive on this song, and it just doesn't feel natural the way he's singing. I don't like the chorus on this song. The melody is not great. The music itself I'm okay with, but man, his vocals, I think this is, like I said, this is a flashback to where I was like, images and words into this. I was not ready for it, and that's what I have to say.
Okay. It's funny that you mentioned his vocals on the record because that's one of my very favorite aspects. I think that his vocals on this record are incredible. I think it's really unfortunate that he had that breakfast accident in Cuba that ruptured his vocal cords because he hit all these crazy. Not only were they high notes, but like screaming high notes, like heavy delivery, and then he blows out his vocal cords. So he can't, it's dangerous for him to do that going forward. And here he lays it all on the line vocally on this record, and then all of a sudden he has this stupid food poisoning accident, like super random, unfortunate thing, and it just completely takes away. He could still do it, obviously, but he shouldn't because he's going to roach his throat again. So I personally have no problem with that because I think it's a different layer to what he's able to do, and I think it sounds awesome against layered against the heaviness of the record. So, and I know you said you don't like the organ sounds and the key sounds on this. I actually really like them because I think it doesn't sound as. It's a little different for Kevin Moore tonally. I think it's a little different from what he did on the previous two albums. And I really like that, and especially like, I mean, we'll talk about the piano later, but I like that it sounds kind of tinkly and weird because that's not just a hey, I'm just sitting at a baby grand like everybody always does. So I think it's awesome. And I will disagree with you on the chorus. I really like the chorus to this song. I think it's really cool. Memory walks through the door. It's kind of big and stuff like that. It's interesting. I think it's a very interesting album opener, especially on a record that ends up going into some really, really dark, heavy places. Gibson Les Paul says, I love the production. Petrucci's tone with the scooped mids is awesome, and Portnoy's drum tones are greatly improved from the triggers on images and words. I'm not one that ever had a problem with the triggers. I don't know where you stand on that, Brian. But I will say these definitely sound more natural, which obviously is what he is going for.
I'll disagree on the guitars. To me, that it's the same thing. It's sort of abrasive. The scooped mids. It's a dry type thing. At times, I think it almost gets tinny too. I'm not a huge fan of the. Well, if I'm not a fan of the production, I'm not going to be a fan of the guitars.
But, yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, honestly, the only record of theirs that I really think the guitars are kind of is I think it's the self-titled,
where it's superly overly processed to the point of like this awash and everything.
That's or no, you know what it is? It's Black Clouds. That's very scooped. That just sounds. It's the only record that they've ever done where I think he doesn't sound full like he always does. The only thing I would say, to your point on the guitars on this one is it does sound very Ibanez-y, and of course he was playing Ibanez back then, but it doesn't have that full body like the Ernie Balls that he subsequently went to in other years going forward. So, all right, so track 2, Caught in a Web. I love this song. It's this one always feels like a bulldozer to me because it's just constant double bass, throughout most of the song, and it just rolls, and it just keeps rolling. It's like you constantly I love that, and it's this is probably, well, not probably, it is their heaviest song that they had done up to this point, and this is the introduction to the 7-string guitar and stuff like that. And I love it.
Yeah, I'm okay with this song. It's got that weird hypnotic synth, which I'm actually all right with, and there's like some cool orchestra hit things in there. Um, but then we got this heavy, angry James again going. The difference on this one is when you get to the chorus, you got a big, kind of solid melody going there. Almost a pop chorus. But there's also those high parts where he's getting into those, Dickinson, Halford, it's almost what they call a full lyric tenor, the range wise, and it's clean. And I like that. That part of, the clean parts I like. So just to clarify, I don't hate his singing on the entire album. There's definitely a lot of parts I really like. I just don't like the angry, almost unnatural, shrilly where it gets to be, and that happens, I think, on maybe, I don't know, 4 songs. It's not, it's never really the entire song he does it either.
Yeah. I see. I think you make a good point where you're talking about going into the high register, like the Dickinson and the Halford and stuff. And I think that's why I like his heavy vocals on this album, because it's like he gets up there, but I like when people do it with some balls. And I'm not saying I don't like it when it's clean and high, but when someone can just like really scream it out, like Lane Staley was known to, he's famous for that kind of thing. I just really like that. So I just think it really fits the music. I really think it fits great personally. And it's funny you talk about the chorus, the Caught in a Web. I actually, if I had to pick one of the choruses of the first 2 songs, I would actually take 6 a.m. personally. I mean, just personal preference. So,
Well, that's why the 2 of us are doing a podcast, I guess.
Exactly. Cody asks, was Awake when Mike Portnoy switched to Mapex drums briefly? Yes, it was. Yeah, that was a pretty short-lived thing there. But that is definitely the Awake album. So, alrighty. So track 3 is also one of my favorites. I'll let you talk about this one first. Hopefully you don't dislike this one, because if so, then I'm just going to tell you you're wrong on everything else you say on this show. But Innocence Faded.
Did you already forget our Gateway episode?
No, I know, but who knows what you're going to say? You might change your mind.
It was on both of our lists.
I'm aware of that, but it's on an album that you do not like. So
no,
maybe you were just being generous.
I've always loved this song. I mean, it's one of my favorite, and this is the thing. This is one of my favorite James vocal performances of all of his stuff. Gigantic chorus, huge hook, the suspended clean guitars, that beginning is complicated. That part, that little like bridge thing after the second chorus, I love that. And it's like those cool kind of almost fusion guitar riffs where it changes, and it really gets cooking there. I think this is a great song, man. I have zero problem with this song whatsoever. It like totally throws you for a loop in a sense, because it's nothing at all like the first 2 songs. But that's kind of how this whole album is. There's really hardly any of them really, to me, kind of just veer into the next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, this song is like pretty much quintessential, like perfect Dream Theater to me. It's got all the hallmarks of a great Dream Theater song. And as we said in the previous episode, the vocal on this is incredible. I think that this song is basically one big hook. Like you could sing along to all of it pretty much. And, you can't say that about very many songs where the whole thing, you're just rolling with it and just like, tapping your toe, like kind of getting really into it just based on what the vocal is doing. And it's just awesome. And, I think you could say the same thing about the guitar too. Like it's that happy upbeat riff, the main part of it. And it is very different from the first couple of songs. And honestly, on this record, it's kind of different because they don't really have another song that's like as, terrible term, but happy as this song is. So it definitely is kind of like an outlier on this album, and I think it adds some good color to it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's happy and it gets to the point, rather quickly, you know what I mean? I think as well.
Yeah, it's a very, it's not even 6 minutes long. It's a perfect example of when they do write a shorter song that really kind of encapsulates everything that you kind of enjoy about what they do, and it gets to the point, but it doesn't seem like they're cramming stuff in for the sake of cramming it in. It's just written and crafted very, very efficiently, and I think it's great. It's always like with you, it's always been one of my favorites. I know when I was at Score and they busted into it, I was like, whoa, yes. So that was a really cool moment to see that song live because it's something they don't ever bust out. So that was a good time. Alrighty, so now we get into the Erotomania suite, beginning of course with Erotomania, and this is pretty much one of their best instrumental tracks, potentially their best instrumental track. So, you've got this one. Obviously, later, you start out with it. Yitzhak Jam. You've got this one. Later records, you've got Enigma Machine and stuff like that. Stream of Consciousness. To me, if I'm picking like an instrumental track, I would say if you're going between this or I'm drawing a blank. What am I? Dance of Eternity. Sorry about that. Had a brain fart. To me, it's very, very close. Erotomania it's so cool, and it just kind of feels like a progression from Yitzhak Jam. It was like they did Yitzhak Jam, and then you could tell there's growth in the 2 or 3 years since images and 2 years since Images and Words, and it's more progressed and it's a little bit more concise and to the point. It's just really cool. It's got some super interesting passages to it, and it's rhythmically that little staggery part. I love that. So where do you stand on this one?
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, you make a good point about the growth. The Yeatsy Jam is kind of almost sort of sounds like a lost Iron Maiden riff that sort of just keeps going in different directions here and there. Erotomania, this is more Deep Purple, ELP-ish with the organ stuff going on. Some cool arpeggio things happening in it. I think you're absolutely on crack if you think this is better than Dance of Eternity. I mean, I don't know if you previewed, not previewed, but if you asked 5,000 Dream Theater fans, I don't know that you'd get 3 that would agree with you on that one. But I mean, well, it's possible.
I said it's close. I mean, it's all subjective.
It's definitely, I'll definitely take it over Stream of Consciousness because I absolutely do not like that song whatsoever. But
okay, well, Gibson Les Paul actually agrees with me because he says Erotomania is tied with Dystopian Overture for my favorite Dream Theater instrumental. So see, he chooses Dystopian Overture over Dance of Eternity. So there you go. So if you said
Dystopian Overture, that crushes this song too. I love Dystopian Overture. Absolutely not even close either in my mind.
What is with you in this album? Like, did it kick your dog or something?
No, no. I'm just saying if you're comparing these, I just don't even think it's close.
Oh my God, Erotomania is like a Dream Theater classic. I mean, if you go to any Dream Theater show and that keyboard part comes with the dun, 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 the whole place erupts. This is like a classic Dream Theater song.
That's fine, but it's still not better than Dance of Eternity. It's just no way, man. I mean, come on.
Oh, see, I wish we wouldn't get shut down for like playing actual copyrighted audio on this thing, because I would love to pull them up and like, see, what about this part? And then you could pull up, dance. What about this part? Like we could just go song to song and just hammer this out, like go to war about this. So all right. So Mr. I don't like Erotomania. What don't you like about Erotomania?
See, that's the thing. People start this. Oh, you're gonna bash on Awake. And I'm like, look, I'm not bashing on it. I think there's a fine line of taking it what it is, but I also really have to compare it to the rest of the catalog, because there's only so many hours in the day to listen. If you're going to go see a concert, there's only so many songs they're going to play. So, but sure, you can't strictly do a comparison thing. But I also have to, think of it just in my own taste. And like I said, going back, I literally remembered his vocal there, and I was like, oh man, that's just, it was kind of just like I was not ready for it at all after Images and Words. And that's such an iconic, album, as we've talked before, that it's going to be borderline impossible for someone to say that this is a better album. And someone can say that. I don't know that they really mean that. They can want to mean that. But I mean, would you really believe someone that says this is a better album than Images and Words? I mean, come on.
again, it is subjective. I mean,
I understand it's subjective, but
what's the term? Gatekeeping. Don't be gatekeeping
right.
on people.
No, and I'm not. I'm just giving my honest opinion on it. That's all. I'm not a hater of this album. I'm not a hater of anything,
Well,
But
you haven't addressed why you don't like Erotomania.
no, you haven't addressed how it's better than Dance of Eternity either.
I didn't say it was better. I said it's right up there. It's almost right up there with it.
I thought you
So
said you preferred it over that.
no, see,
Okay.
you were so ready. You were just getting ready to just like launch into more awake hatred that you weren't even listening
I
to.
know.
What
I'm such a social media bully. That's all I do.
Oh my gosh!
God
Don't even
forbid
get
you
me
say you don't like something. It's like, what? What do you have against this?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't get me started. I do a Star Wars podcast, and I can't even go on Star Wars social media anymore. It's just absolutely a wasteland. It's terrible. So, yeah. No, I mean honestly, like I love Dance of Eternity, but I also love this. I mean, to me, they're two different things stylistically. So maybe that's why I can compare them, because it really is kind of like an apples to oranges thing to me. They're very different in style. I think Erotomania is more slick and kind of like cool, I would say. Whereas Dance of Eternity is much more aggressive and in your face and like, check out all this prog.
Yeah.
So I think they're kind of different in that respect, which is why I have no problem kind of, saying that they're real close in my mind because, as I just said, apples and oranges, it's two different things.
Yeah, this is like a slow burning groove. You almost picture like a bunch of cats sitting around with, or cool cat, like jazz cats with sunglasses and, like just jamming out and stuff. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with this song at all. I just, Dystopian Overture, Dance of Eternity. If I got to pick, I'm going to pick those two. But, like I said, props for the growth between this and Yahtzee Jam for sure.
Yeah. And I think, speaking of the growth, I think that's something that's evident throughout the whole record. Like there was, listening back to this, there was, backing it up against Images and Words, like Images and Words felt like there was this kind of like youthful energy and, oh yeah, let's do this. Yeah, we're doing a record, and whereas Awake sounds a little more mature and like, reserved and it's, there's definitely progression there, but you can hear like the sound and the musicianship and the writing just maturing and them kind of pumping the brakes, being like, okay, we know what we're doing now. It's a little more artistic as opposed to kinetic, I think. That's kind of, what I got off of this. So moving on in the Erotomania suite, we have Voices. So what do you think about this one?
This is just a weird song, man.
Yep.
I love the opening bass tones on this. I think you mixed me up earlier. I did say I like the organ sounds on this album.
Because previously you said you didn't.
No, I didn't like the pianos.
Just the pianos. Okay.
Yeah, mostly. Well, and then that's what happens in this song is you get that little breakdown, and then here comes that piano sound again. And it's almost like that. It sounds like an upright saloon piano. When it's got that quiet little, and that's fine for Dance of Eternity when they're doing that ragtime thing. I just don't like it at all here. Like I said, there's times they do that on purpose, and I think it fits. I don't like that sound here. Then the song turns into kind of this heavier drone. You got the bashing guitars and keyboards, and there's a moment there. I don't know how much of a Beatles fan you are, but we know Mike Portnoy is, where they're flat out they're doing Dear Prudence, the chord progression going down, and that's kind of cool. It's a cool little twist they do there.
Yeah.
But to me, this song is it's kind of just a mishmash of a whole bunch of things together, and I'm not a huge fan of this one.
Okay. I think it's cool. I like that it's weird. I mean, I think I've said many times on the show already that I really enjoy when they get kind of weird with things. I'm a big fan of that. This has one of my favorite James LaBrie vocals. That middle part is like, what the, it's, he gets way up there, and I like when he does that on this album. And this song is just a perfect example of that. And it's just that screaming kind of just about to tumble over the edge of melody type of a delivery. And there's a certain like nervous energy to that. And I an angst, I always hate that word, but it's appropriate here. There's a certain you know, angst to this one that I really, really get into. And, again, the weirdness for me always works when they do it because they do have so many straightforward moments in songs, sprinkled around that are much more prevalent than the weird moments. So I dig it. I think it's really cool.
So
And
you
and
have
it,
you have something against people that are not weird. Then that's what you're saying.
I didn't see. We're just attacking each other tonight. It must be these delicious beers that we're drinking.
Hey, Gibson Les Paul agrees with me on this one.
It gives okay, yeah. He says voices is the only clunker on the album for me. All right. I actually don't have a clunker on this one. But okay. That being said, and maybe this makes me a fanboy. That's fine. But Dream Theater has almost no clunkers for me, and it takes them several albums before they really put out a clunker for me. So like I say, I really like this one, and like I was saying at the outset of the show, this album is really atmospheric. It might be their most atmospheric for me, and this song falls right into that category. This is one of those songs that it just there's this vibe to it. It's kind of dark and creepier, and it's. I really don't know how to describe it. I just fall back on atmospheric. That's really the word that comes to mind, when I think about this song. So, again, I'm a big fan. So, all right, moving on. We have The Silent Man. So I will let you talk about this one. Personally, I love it. Go figure.
I like the chorus on it a lot. I like the ending, the chorus, and how it kind of ends real simple. The harmonies on the chorus are really cool. It's one of those songs. It sort of feels out of place, but it sort of breaks up the album too. We've talked about this before. You kind of have to have something to sort of mellow out the craziness that they do.
Yep.
I think this song does that okay. The best parts of this definitely are on the chorus, and the harmonies are very cool.
Yeah. I like the fact that they have other songs in the catalog like this, but not many of them work as well as this one. The short little acoustic thing. Sometimes they might layer them a little more than I think is necessary, which sounds great because I'm a big fan of stuff that's really lush and full and everything, and that's great. But for something like this and a song of this style, I think the simplicity really makes it stand out. And this to me, I think, is probably my favorite. I would say this one and Out of Reach are my favorite, short, concise ballad type songs that they do. And I don't even know if I could put Out of Reach in there because it actually has like drums and bass and full electric guitar and stuff like that. But, I think this one is like Wait for Sleep on Images, because it's just really stripped down, really simple. And it's so emotive as a result. And like you said, you just throw a little bit of vocal harmony on that chorus. It's got a real simple solo to it. I think it's awesome. And it's, I'm also a fan of it because I'm a crappy guitar player and I can actually play most of this on guitar. So that doesn't suck. So I'm a big fan of it for that reason.
Yeah, if this song was like 2 minutes longer, it wouldn't work. But they made this concise little, it borders on like almost a Zeppelin folk song, kind of the way they approached it, and Zeppelin had some great stuff like that, and that's really what this reminds me of.
Yeah, that's a very good analogy, because and it's kind of interesting that you mentioned Zeppelin, because those types of songs in their catalog kind of broke up the bigger, more extreme songs in their catalog too. When you have stuff like, like Kashmir and 10 Years Gone and things like that, and then you get short little things like Tangerine and stuff. So I think that's a very good comparison right there. All right, so now we get into basically musical perfection for the next couple of songs. The Mirror. There's nothing left to say. You just let's just say The Mirror and then slowly nod our heads for like the next 5 minutes, and then we'll go on to Lie and pretty much do the same thing. So, um, I'll let you start on this one because I gushed on the last episode, so I'm sure I'll do it again. But
No, I said before that this was one that I had missed previously. I really do like the song actually. You know, that it's got that heavy, dry, chugging guitar part, which I'm not a huge fan of the tone of that I think is in a lot of the album, but it really works on this song for me.
yeah,
You know, it's got that, what did we talk about? That part sounds like Joe Satriani, almost that one little
yeah,
riff. And I can't tell the second time. I think it might be Kevin Moore playing it with a synclavier sound, which is that same sound that you have on like Van Halen, like Why Can't This Be Love? It's that same keyboard sound. I think the second time
yeah.
the keyboard maybe and the guitar playing, it's on that. It's on the Cars, Let's Go. It's on Night of the Hunter, 30 Seconds to Mars. But I always love
Right.
that. I love that sound in a song. It's a great song. I like The Mirror.
Yeah, Gibson Les Paul. I think he's on board. He says perfection from here until the end. Yeah, that's obviously not for you, Brian. We'll get to that at the end here, but yeah, I agree. This is I love the whole record. It's probably my top three, and I think I really like the first half and the second half. Just wow, it's just nothing but bangers from here on out. One of the things that I really like, and it's probably showing my simplistic musical mind compared to yours, but I've always really been drawn to that simplistic triplet. Just the guitar just goes ugh 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 ugh, and they do like three different beats under it, so you can just keep on that one guitar riff for like 3 solid minutes, but everything around it changes and makes it completely different and fresh to the ear. And I just absolutely love that. I mean, they kind of revisit some, not as extremely, but they kind of revisit that sort of thing later on in Scarred with the ugh 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 ugh, because they do a couple beats under that and they revisit it a few times in the song. But rarely does Dream Theater get into a really simplistic, just punch you in the face riff, just a direct, straight, heavy. You don't even have to think about it. It's just a headbanging riff, and this is the first time in their catalog that they did that. What I think it was called Puppies on Acid, I think was the working title, and they were jamming around with it as like a jam on stage and stuff like that on the Images tour and everything, and they made it into an entire song, and it's just so cool. And I this is, I think, another example of me loving the keyboard sounds. I think what did you call it a minute ago? A Stradivarius? What?
Synclavier.
Okay, I've never heard of that. I've heard of tons of musical instruments, but I've never heard of a synclavier.
Well, it's just it's a program on. It's a way you can make a synthesizer sound by changing certain filters and modulations within the sounds in the synthesizer.
Oh, okay.
So like,
right.
Especially on analog, like the old analog synthesizers basically would have, okay, here's the synclavier sound. And like I said, it's going to sound like that Van Halen, Why Can't This Be Love? Is probably the most, that and the Cars, Let's Go.
Okay.
It's got ow, ow, ow,
Oh,
it's that, you know what I'm talking about? So it's got that weird sound to it. And I love how that little riff comes in there. It's like, hey, where'd this come from?
Yeah, that was like I say, like when I first heard it, and especially coming off of the Silent Man, like I thought it was a brilliant, way to lay out the track list. You come from the most mellow, little piece on the record to the heaviest. It's like, okay, we're back. Like, it's just definitely a statement of, all right, we're ready to keep rolling here. And I again, James's heavy vocals just work over music like this. I think, if he were to do some of the, clean stuff that he's mostly known for, I don't think it would have the same effect. I think that songs like this and, Lie and stuff like that, like really call for that sort of more heavy metal vocal mixed with that range that he's so famous for. So, they could play this every show. I wouldn't care. I'd be like, sweet. All right, let's listen to The Mirror. Very cool. So I'm just a huge fan of this song. I think it's awesome. And going into that, we obviously have Lie, which was supposed to be one song with the mirror, as we discussed on the last episode, and James Labrie was listening to the demos and went, we should split these up into separate songs. So again, I'm a huge fan of Lie as well. I like the more metal moments. You know, I grew up like a metal kid, and Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera, Anthrax, and so when I hear that kind of stuff mixed with the insane musicianship, like I'm a huge fan of that. And something about just the low end on Lie, when you're jamming in your car, you crank it up, like it just rumbles, and it's just so cool, and I love it. What are your thoughts on this song? Because did we discuss like whether or not like you're not as into the heavy stuff as I am? Am I correct in saying that?
No,
or-
that's not totally true. It just depends on on how I perceive. I think our definitions of heavy sometimes are maybe a little bit different. Like, I mean, just going back to Mirror, like I think his style of singing on that is totally different than the way he's singing the first two songs on the album. He's still singing heavy and stuff, but it doesn't have that abrasive, almost shrill to it. At least I'm not hearing it in this song. Anyway, on to Lie. Well, we talked about last time. I'm not as big on Lie as you are. It almost sounds like a Godsmack riff to me when it, kind of gets going.
Oh, that's blaspheme.
I know
blaspheme.
I had to say that because I know that's your favorite band.
Oh, I hate to use the word hate with. I hate Godsmack. Oh.
But it almost sounds like I do like when it gets super high. It's like, was it after like the spoken word kind of mellow part? There's some super high cleaner stuff he gets into. I like that. But as far as a song as a whole, I'm not. This is one of my kind of
Yeah, not me. Cody W says, so you're a fan of Balls and Chunk, as Portnoy puts it. Yes, I am 100% a fan of the Balls and Chunk areas of Dream Theater. So the Lie fits right in there with it. And I think what's cool to me is coming off of the Mirror with that straight ahead ugh type of thing, and then it just stays in that heavy groove, but it's a different heavy groove, and I really like it. And I think I might be a little jaded on this one a little bit, just because I always, for some reason, even though the video is like really simple, like I always loved the music video for this one. Something about it, just them driving around New York City or whatever. I don't know why, because there's nothing to it. But something about it just looked really cool to me. And I think that kind of plays in my mind as I'm listening to the song. But yeah, I think for this one, for me, this is one of those ones that I love pretty much because of the guitar. This is a guitar player's dream. This is, the really cool harmonic, like all those cool, weird harmonics that he nails and stuff like that. And it's got some really great chords, and the solo obviously is just quintessential John Petrucci. So I think, my favorite instrument is electric guitar. And for me, this one is just totally, a John Petrucci fest, for lack of a better term. So I really get into this for that reason. So, all right. Lifting Shadows Off a Dream. Why don't you talk about this one? I personally, again, I'm a fan. I'm going to say it about pretty much every song on this record, obviously.
So I don't know if you remember, but I had this on my Just Missed for Gateway songs.
Yes.
I love that song. I think it's a cool song. We have, this is what you called it. I was referencing the breathy Labrie.
Yes.
It's that, and I love when he does that style of singing. The ending chorus, like those marching drum parts, and he gets into the super highs, and then you got the descending clean guitar. It kind of, there's a sort of a U2 feel in the beginning. The ending, sort of towards the middle to the end, Portnoy's doing all these things that really remind me almost of Rush Mystic Rhythms off Power Windows, which is probably my favorite Rush album of all time, to be honest. And he obviously, we talked before about, he did, I can't remember what the song was, but he threw in parts of Xanadu on it. He's known for doing stuff like that, but there's some obvious nods to Mystic Rhythms, sound choices, and things he's doing on the drums. But I have no problem with the song at all. I love the song.
Yep. Gibson Les Paul says Lifting Shadows is hands down my favorite Dream Theater song. I lost my mind when they played it on the Along for the Ride tour. Yep, I saw that show. We saw that show in Chicago. Wasn't that one of the ones that I got the second pair of tickets for, and you were in that little booth thing at the Chicago Theater? Was that one? Or
No,
was that the Astonishing?
that was the Astonishing.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, 'cause
all we got was the Astonishing for 2.5 hours.
Don't be complaining. Don't be one of
No,
those guys.
I mean we knew that going in. That was,
yeah.
It's like, yeah, we're astonished. It's been 2.5 hours. We are more than astonished. We're like blown away.
I just side note about that. It just baffled me on that tour when people would come out of it going, "That's bullcrap. I can't believe they didn't play anything else." Like, dude, every bit of press they did for that record and tour said we're only playing that on the tour. Like, we're not playing anything else, and people just apparently weren't listening. So,
Well, and not to mention, like, were you shocked, like when, and even if you knew they were going to play that, were you shocked, like when they didn't play anything else? Like you'd already been there like 3.5 hours at that point. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, here's another 6 hours of music coming your way. Like
Everybody wants the live scenes from New York, 4.5 hours. You know,
Right,
James
right.
LeBrie coming off stage. The final thing he says is, "Sorry about the short set." Like, you know. So, yeah, I think this one is definitely, you know, falls under the category of atmospheric. You know, for me, you know, in my notes, I have, you know, obviously Voices I already mentioned. This one, Scarred and Space Divest. I think they're just these. There's just this aura and this sound to these songs that's ethereal, and there's something extra there that, you know, is hard to find on future releases, and they nailed it like 4 times on this album. So this is just a beautiful song. It's one of those Dream Theater songs I think that you can lump into that category we said before of like beautiful. Again, it's a simple term, but I think it's descriptive where this song is concerned. It's just, you know, the melodies are great, you know, the tones are great. And what's interesting to me about this one is that, you know, this song is 6 minutes long, and the next one, Scarred, is 11. And I did not know that until I was looking at the track listing and stuff like that a couple days ago. I always thought it was the other way around. So that was kind of a weird revelation for me, because this song feels longer, and not in a bad way, but I think I get so into, you know, the vibe of it that it just feels like it's going on longer than it does. So I'm you know, I love that. I love when you kind of lose yourself in it and it's still concise and to the point, and it's just a very interesting songwriting dynamic, I think. So, you know, speaking of Scarred, we'll get into that one. So what do you think about this one? I actually have a funny story about Scarred. I'll say real quick. So I actually got to play part of the song live on stage, and it was with my cover band, and we had a fill-in bass player, and he's a huge Dream Theater guy. And we got a drummer from the other band we were playing with to get up on stage to do a song with us. And before we went into the song, like, the other drummer listened to Dream Theater. And right as I'm talking about the next song, you know, bass player knows I'm a huge Dream Theater guy. He starts the bass line from Scarred. And I went, and I hear the guitar player going, "No, no." And all of a sudden the drummer goes into, and we started, so I went into it, and the guitar player's going, "Stop, stop." But we played a good 2 minutes of Scarred, just bass, drums, and vocal.
Nice.
So it's the only Dream Theater song I've ever performed part of in an actual live band. So this song is very distinctive to me. So, all right, so what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, we talked about it. This was on your prog list, wasn't it?
Mm-mm.
Was it on your other list then?
No.
Oh, okay. How did this? I swore this song. Oh, maybe, you know what? I know what happened. Someone, one of the listeners, brought it up last week.
Yes, that's exactly what.
Yeah. So I have my notes from last week on this one. I listened to it again. You know, this is what I said. It almost reminds me of Lynch Mob. That kind of cool bluesy groove. It gets going there. Yep. We talked about almost Rob Halford's vocals, some parts. I don't know that I need this song to be 10 minutes. But I do know at the 7-minute mark, I double checked it. I love those, like, it's like a stuttering guitar.
Yeah.
It's like curious. It's like curiously stuttering guitar parts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I think you're talking about the part that I mentioned earlier, like the ugug, like that little skip part there.
I don't know if that's it. I thought it was more of a solo type thing. It does, like a
okay. So we're referencing different things. Okay.
Yeah. This
No, it's
makes for
fine.
great podcasting.
No, well, I mean, you dive into it and you're like, okay, at the 7-minute mark, and I'm very much more of like a feel guy. Like
Yeah.
I kind of like, so when I listen to these things back, I'm always like, oh wow, I missed that or something, because I always find myself listening to different things, but I don't. I'm not nitpicking every little part, even when I'm taking notes. But you're a very meticulous musician sort, and so you
Wait
do
a minute.
that. It's interesting.
It was at the 6:58 mark. Does that help now?
You got it wrong, man. Your notes are off.
No, as soon as we're done with this episode, though, I want to play it for you. So then you'll go like, "Oh, now I know what he's talking about."
Yeah.
I didn't think you did,
Right.
which is normal. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the song. If they played it live, I like the beginning, and I like the Halford parts. I don't think this is like one of their better songs. If you want me to, if we're here to rank what are the best songs and what are the songs you're a huge fan of, Gibson Les Paul. His mind must still be gone. He didn't find it yet. Although we agreed on voices, so I can't believe he did get one. So
yeah, I think it's a great song, man. I mean, like I say, I did not realize that it was 1 second shy of 11 minutes. It just doesn't feel like that to me. The only time it did was when I actually saw that, and then I listened back to the song, and I was like, yeah, okay. Like, if you're actually listening for it to be long, then it's long. But without knowing that, I had no clue. It's just a really cool sounding. It's just atmospheric, a little bit weird in parts. It's right up my alley. So no surprise that I'm a big fan of this one. And speaking of big fans of this one, why don't we get to the penultimate argument of our Awake Deep Dive episode? So let's get into Space Divest. And I will start out by asking you a question. Is this your least favorite Dream Theater song?
I'll say this.
Don't you dodge the question.
No, I did not know the entire backstory on the lyrics for this. And once you spilled that out to me last week, boy, that man, any chance this may have had of being improved. So go ahead and first of all, I want you to go ahead and reiterate what the song is about lyrically, and then I have something to add to this that I'm sure everyone's dying not to hear.
Yeah, if you're gonna pull out another one of your one-liners, I swear. But no, I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, Kevin Moore wrote this. The whole song was a finished piece that he brought to the band, lyrics, guitars, everything, like keys, obviously. And the song is about a woman that he had seen in a magazine, in an advertisement, wearing a space dive vest, and he basically kind of like fell in love with her. And the lyrics are about the fact that he realized that the only way for the love to remain pure was for her to remain on the page. Like, if he had met her in person, the whole illusion would have been shattered. And so he wrote this song about that. So it's really kind of out. I mean, the concept makes sense if you think about it. Like, it's like seeing a chick in Playboy or something, and you're like, oh man, I bet she's super hot in person. You get there and she's got zits and stuff, like, like love handles or whatever. Like, it's a little different, because all the processing and stuff. So I guess like
we're body shaming now, John.
I guess so. I guess I'm a misogynist. Who knew? But yeah, I mean, it's off the page is different. And that's what he wrote about. So,
devil's advocate here. Dream Theater writes songs about faith, about love, about loss, about war, about addiction, about family, about the evils of the world. They write songs about stem cell research. They don't need to write a song about some chick that's a picture in a magazine. They're not Motley Crue. They're not Warrant. They're not Trickster.
Van Halen.
They're not Slaughter. They're not Roxy Blue, for God's sakes. No, see, Dream Theater does not need to do that. They should have punched Kevin Moore in the face, like I said before. I don't even have a problem listening to again. I don't even have a problem with the music. But man, when you told me the lyrics and the story behind it, it's the stupidest, it's the dumbest idea ever for a song, unless you're an 80s hairband. It's horrible. and yet, everyone wants to hear this song. Everyone, but me.
Yeah, you're like, time for a piss if they pull it out live.
I mean, it's beyond. I cannot believe that lyrically, like, and first of all, like, okay, how far? Like, let's say he actually did, was within 2 miles of this girl and he's carrying around this picture. Is that borderline stalking at that point? Like, how close to when does it turn into stalk? Like, it's just weird, man.
I wrote a song for you. Come here. I wrote a song for you.
Right. It's just dumb. Like, I mean, if you love the music, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But man, I mean, the lyric and the idea behind that is just about it. I don't know.
Gibson Les Paul says Space Dive Vest is great. There's a somber mood to it. I completely agree. That Dream Theater haven't touched since. Borderline desperation, and it's awesome. I agree. And I got to tell you, man, like, yes, I do love the music because it's weird and it's that escalating piano thing. And dude, I get where you're coming from with like the lyrical content, but the idea of it is actually, it's a truth. It's an interesting concept. It's not, you reference all these like 80s hair bands and stuff like that. But, and by the way, if you're going to rip on somebody lyrically, don't be invoking the name of Roxy Blue, okay? Like, you're like, oh yeah, this is totally. But look how cultured I am. I know Roxy Blue. Like,
well, that was my point. Was it should be on a Roxy Blue album, not a Dream Theater album.
No. Oh my God, it's so fun. I had no idea this is gonna get you this riled up. You never get this riled up. Yeah, I think that the idea of the lyric is cool. It's it's not just like a hair metal, like, oh yeah, you got big boobs, I'm gonna bang you out, whatever, groupie, like hot chick, whatever. It's a legitimate thought of, okay, holy crap, this woman is beautiful. If I meet her in person, she's not gonna be beautiful. That's crazy. Like, and I also think that the lyrics don't belabor the point because it's interspersed with those movie lines, like the quotes from movies and stuff, to kind of break it up, and I think that's cool. It kind of punctuates. It punctuates that vocal, so it doesn't. You're not actually sitting there going, "Oh my God, is he like whacking it to a like a magazine picture or something?" Like,
well, listen. The Beach Boys let Charles Manson into a recording studio for about 10 minutes, and then they kicked him out, realizing he was completely insane.
So now you accuse me of being misogynist, and now you're comparing Kevin Moore to Charles Manson. What is happening on this episode?
I'm sorry. I have nothing against Charles Manson. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh! Hopefully, people watch the video of this so that they know the sarcasm is there. Holy God, we're in the social media age, man. You say anything like that, we're gonna get canceled. Right after James does a really nice intro video for us, but he'd be like, guys, check out this show I did an intro for. They're really good. He's gonna get into this. They're gonna get to the end and go, like, tell them to delete that and take their podcast down now.
Right. You must say everything I do is amazing at all times, or you're a hater, right?
Yeah. In your defense, in the biography that we both have, they said emphatically that they thought it was weird, and they would have preferred not to put it on the record. But they didn't know Kevin Moore was leaving. Had they known that he was leaving the band, they would have excluded it. But they didn't, so they were like, yeah, okay. He had seemed a little distant and stuff, so like, yeah, we'll throw him a bone. Like, that's cool, whatever. It's, stick it at the end of the record, and, whatever. Again, I just think that this one falls under that category of atmospheric, weird. It's just very interesting to the ear. And I think it's great. I will debate you on that all day long. So, but now having said that, I can understand where you're coming from on the lyrics because I'm not a big lyric guy. I only really complain about lyrics when it's obviously cringeworthy. If it's, anytime someone rhymes life with strife, that is like the ultimate number one no-no, as lyricists know. So that one's bad. And if you just hear a lyric and you're like, you're kind of like, what the hell was that? Like, if I hear that, then I got a problem. But Space Divest, I don't have that problem with it. So
My only issue with lyrics is when the words are really dumb. Otherwise, I'm like completely fine with them.
Man, oh man, you've been drinking before the show or something.
No, I should probably start though.
What are you drinking, by the way?
This is like a little margarita mix here. It's got some Patron
Ah,
in there.
all right, all right. I'm currently drinking a sour that I found today. Actually the can looks like a can of looks like the Nerds box. I know I got my
Oh
ring
wow.
light on, but yeah, it's a sour strawberry grape. I don't really taste much strawberry and grape, but I do taste sour. So
Is it
you know,
supposed to be like a beer or?
yeah, it's a beer. It says sour ale. It's from Duclaw Brewing Company in Baltimore. Shout out to Baltimore. I got friends there. Very cool city if you like seafood. It's called Sour Me Strawberry Grape Sour Ale. It's an ale with strawberry puree, grape puree, and lactose. All right. So if you're lactose intolerant, don't try Sour Me, even though it's supposed to taste like Nerds, I guess. So, all right. Well, so there's our deep dive into Awake. That was very spirited. I have to admit I was surprised because other things that we've gotten into, you've said, yeah, I'm not really a fan off the air, and then you've come into the show saying, yeah, having to listen to it a bunch, like I changed my mind, like I actually kind of like it, like or this is better than I thought. This one, no, you're
No, this one other than maybe one or two, I ended up liking more than I thought. I just, again, I'm sort of comparing it to the rest of the catalog and what do I want to hear live and just in general, the parts that I really love about Dream Theater. And I don't want someone to get on here and go, oh God, he doesn't like anything that sounds different if they try anything different. That's not what it
yeah,
is. I just know the parts that I really like, and there just wasn't enough for of them on this album for me in general. But like I said, there's a good 4 songs on here, maybe 5 that if they bust out live, I'd be pretty excited to see them play. But the
yeah.
rest of them, not so much.
It was funny to me when I found out that you were not the biggest fan of this record, because I thought pretty much all Dream Theater fans like universally really liked this. The only person that I've met prior to you that just does, I mean, and this one like is by far his least favorite, is my buddy Matt Wardlaw. I went to the Score show with him. He writes for Ultimate Classic Rock, and when he told me that this was his least favorite record, I couldn't believe it. I was like, really? I really thought that for people that are big into Dream Theater, that everyone pretty much universally has this record way up on their list, and apparently I was wrong. So
We should have got him on here. We could have ganged up against you.
I tell you what, I was thinking about it. I really was thinking about it. I was like, I should hit him up and see if he would come on. I would have been destroyed because he's a music writer, you're a musician, and then there's my dumbass like I'm drinking a beer that's like Nerds.
No, you know what? At the end of the day, it is all subjective, and I'm not one of those people like, oh my God, I can't believe you liked it. You know what I mean? I've never been that way. I think I'm more laid back in that stuff than probably you are. I know there's stuff you absolutely can't stand.
Yeah,
that I like, and that's fine. Whatever. It doesn't bother me. Everyone's entitled to their horrible opinion, like you. as you told me many a time, right?
Ah, well, what are friends for?
But it's crazy how people like love this album.
See, Gibson Les Paul says I have John's back on this, so we can take him. See, Gibson, I should have gotten Matt on, and then I should have got you on. Then we could have like had a tag team match.
Well, the guy who just 5 minutes ago said Voices was the absolute worst song he'd ever heard in his entire life, now all of a sudden thinks this is an amazing album. Okay, Mr. Les Paul, I see you.
Man, you are full of it tonight. Wow, aggressive Brian. We may never see this again. That's crazy. That's usually reserved for me.
I know.
No, apparently not.
Well, the problem is from here on out, I don't, when we get into the rest of these deep dives, I'm not going to have much to say negative because almost all the rest of the albums are, other than probably the self-titled, which I know neither of us are maybe gigantic fans of. But
that's going to be a good episode.
I kind of changed my tune on that one a little too. So,
all right, now it's going to be a really good episode. But yeah, yeah, it's interesting because there aren't many, and again, call me a fanboy, but I mean that's fine if you want to, because I host a Dream Theater podcast for a reason, because I'm a Dream Theater fanboy. But I talking about clunkers earlier, they really don't have very many for me. I mean, I could probably count them on one hand, and there's only one record that I really just don't revisit. Which, you know, and it's not even that I don't like it. It's just like, I'm like, yeah, there's some songs on there. I think it's like this for you. Like, this is probably the one you come back to maybe the least. And I have a record like that myself. But there are songs on there. I'm like, if they played them live, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is great. So
yeah, I would never be like, oh God, they're playing this live. You know what I mean? I'm not that.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's all sort of compared to, you know, what I know that they can do and what I like best about them and what's melodic to me, you know?
Yeah. So on future episodes, I think now that we've got a few of these under our belt, I'd like to start pulling some guests in. I know we've got some people lined up that said they would come on with us. One in particular, I think any Dream Theater fan worth their salt will definitely know. So I don't know about you, but I'd like to start bringing some people on, even including another fan. I actually did not know this, but a very good musician buddy of mine, his brother, he and I have talked at shows and stuff like that. I had no idea, but he's a enormous Dream Theater fan. And so we got talking about it. And he said that his favorite record is Train of Thought, which is not one of the ones that people generally bring up as their favorite. So I said, well, we might have to have you on when we do our album deep dive into that so that you can kind of like provide perspective. And, you know, but yeah, I mean, what do you think about starting to hit some people up and getting some other people on here?
We've got enough complaints that how bored they are with the two of us. It's definitely time at this point.
I have to get our back. We have not been told that yet, thank God. So at least that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We do have some like behind the scenes people lined up that are, you know, fairly close to the band in terms of maybe doing some touring or marketing or whatever with the band that we've talked about. We don't want to give those names away, but I got to tell you right now, April 22nd, boss, I will not be able to do the podcast. So I'm putting in my BTO notice. Yes. I actually got a gig.
Really?
So I have to tell you about this gig. Yeah. You're going to die laughing when I give you some of the details on this one.
Okay. All right. Then maybe if I do the show, then maybe that's when maybe I'll do the Train of Thought album deep dive that day, or, you know, I'll get a guest on or something.
And, so you're going to go ahead without me then? Okay.
Of course I am. The show must go on, my friend. This is show business. You know how it works. I would expect you to do the same for me. So, you know, we got to keep the content coming, especially since we're officially going to be able to go back on our Facebook pages after that. Since within about 3 days, I'll be out of that effing Facebook jail that I was stuck in on my birthday.
Nice.
So, you know. But, yeah, so thanks to everybody for checking out another episode of Talking Into Infinity. I am John. He is Brian. Don't forget that you can download the audio version of the show any number of places. Just look us up online. Definitely Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, all kinds of different places. So you can download the audio version there if you are not able to catch the video cast. Like I said, keep tuning in, man. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Keep in touch with us. You can hit us up on Facebook. If you've got any ideas, just email us, talkingintoinfinity@gmail.com. And, hey, thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will see you in 2 weeks. What'll the date be at that point? It'll be April
8th, I believe.
Is it? Yeah, April 8th. So Thursday, April 8th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be back, and we hope to see all of you guys. So to Gibson Les Paul and Cody W., thank you for hanging out with us tonight. You guys, really appreciate you guys being a part of the show, man. Thanks for helping push the conversation along. So until then, I am John. He is Brian, and we will see you on the next episode.